Are you looking to do deals and master flipping houses? Welcome to the DoDeals Show with our host, Mr. Tim Mai. As a successful investor and mentor to many real estate investors, Tim's students consistently run 6- and 7-figure investing businesses. Each week, you'll hear from top real estate investors who share the best strategies, systems, and secrets that you can use to be more successful. Tim and his guests will pull back the curtain for you to learn their exact tactics, tricks, and tools that are working best right now in today's real estate market. Now, let's welcome Mr. Tim Mai.
Well, hello everybody. Hello Facebook Live. On this interview with me today, I have Steve Howell II. And Steve, can you share with everyone on Facebook what is your one best marketing tip for them?
Yeah, Tim, thank you so much for having me on. Pleasure to be here. So definitely thank you so much. So marketing is definitely one of my favorite topics to talk about. And the one tip, there's many, but I will narrow it down to one of my favorites, and that is to answer the question that's going on in your customer's mind. Because believe it or not, they're having a dialogue. They're thinking like, okay, who are you? Can you really help me? What is this really about? Like, what are you really trying to say? And whether they, think this actively or not, it's going on subconsciously in their mind, and they know that they have, a problem or a need, and maybe they received one of your marketing letters, or they're in contact with you for some reason. So if you can kind of jump out and just really connect with them and be solution oriented and really seek to deliver some type of value, even in the beginning, not trying to get anything in return, but just show them basically that you can bring them a ton of value, that you can help them. And if you can even kind of answer the question, that they have in their mind of like, are you real? Are you legit? Can you help me? And you go ahead and say that and just kind of tackle that obstacle. It's amazing the connection that you're going to develop with your customer, whoever it is that you're speaking with, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, like, how did you know that? Like, or it's going to feel like you're reading their mind a little bit, and it's going to put you so much further ahead than your competition by kind of anticipating some of those questions that they might have. So that would be, Tim, my biggest tip. Is just to be real with people, to connect with them, and try to answer those questions that's going on in their mind.
That's awesome. I love that. And I want to use a specific example so that way it's more tangible for the folks watching, right? So I know you go after the probates a lot, right? So
yes.
What is going on in the mind of someone with a death in the family, or they're managing the estate, and then how do you speak and address into that, on your first conversation with them or your first meeting with them?
Yeah, excellent question, Tim. So how that would kind of play out is, when you're speaking with them on the phone, a lot of times maybe they received a letter and now they've just inherited this property, and they're like, okay, a lot of times they have already a property, and they're like, okay, what am I going to do with this? A lot of times these properties need a lot of fixing up. They need a lot of work. And it's like, okay, am I going to list it with a realtor? Am I going to fix it up myself? A lot of these people have their own, stresses and worries and jobs and kids and all sorts of things going on. So, a lot of times when I'm speaking with them, or some of my students are speaking with them the first time, I like to put them at ease and just, say something like, hey, I just wanted to connect with you here, and, I was interested in possibly making an offer on the house, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be for sale or not, and first establish a little bit of rapport. And then from there, you can think about, saying something along the lines of like, I'm not looking to list the property, or, don't worry, I'm not just going to throw out some crazy lowball offer. We do our due diligence each and every time, and we really look for what's actually selling in the market. And I tell them a little bit about who I am, a little bit about my business, and kind of disarm them and put them at ease a little bit to say, hey, I understand your situation, and there may be an option that I can help you, and it's cool if I can't as well. So I just try to immediately make it into like a no pressure situation, and that seems to work very, very well.
That's awesome. Perfect, Steven. Thank you so much. So folks, we're going to continue with the rest of our interview here. Make sure you keep an eye out for when we post the interview. I'm interviewing Steven on how he does 3 to 5 deals all across the country by recruiting an army of students and bird dogs looking for deals for him. So watch out, keep an eye out for the full interview, okay? All right, see you, Facebook. Okay, so yay! Let's continue with our interview here, Steve. Do you prefer me call you Steve or Steven?
Steven is fine. Yeah, a lot of times I go by Steven. People always ask me that. So I on all my stuff I have Steven. So yeah, Steven is totally cool. I love it.
All right, awesome. Right, so yeah, let's start with, if you can share with us a little bit about your background, how you get started. You look super young, so you must have got started when you were still in like diapers or something. but yeah, share with us a little bit. How did you get on this incredible journey?
Yeah, Tim. So my real estate journey basically got started in 2009. I, was watching some of the house flipping shows at the time and was just fresh out of college and was working in the corporate world. And my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time and then fiance and now wife, we were loving the house flipping shows. And even one of my best friends, we would talk about it often. Like, I want to learn how to get into real estate. I would love to flip houses. And, I just, was kind of on this like seeking mission for a little while to kind of figure out like, what is real estate investing? Like, how do I get involved in this? And, I don't have, I was fresh out of college, didn't have a ton of money. So how do I make this happen? And so from there, I started just researching a lot, listening to a lot of different podcasts and searching different things on the internet and buying books off of TV and all the usual stuff that a lot of people do when they're, kind of their interest is piqued. And so from there, for the first little bit, it was kind of, just accumulating information. And then later in 2009, I got pretty serious about it, and I basically bought a pretty large coaching and mentoring program, invested a lot of money, went into a little bit of debt, and decided, hey, I really want to kind of learn this business. Mm-hmm. And Tim, honestly, right out of the gates, it wasn't a smashing success. I've always felt like I was a pretty bright guy, not the smartest guy in the world, but, I felt like I had some determination and I could eventually make some things happen. But so I was out there, meeting with people and, talking with all sorts of people, talking with realtors, talking with attorneys. I was posting flyers at the local grocery store. I was out there putting out signs in the middle of the night and doing things. And for a while, I just couldn't get, any deals going. I couldn't get, I just couldn't get over that hump. And it was, very painful, very frustrating. And I had spent a lot of money on this program. And I was kind of like outsourced to a call center, and it was a frustrating experience and a lot of inexperience on my part, and then also this, trying to work a corporate job and stuff like that. So definitely went through the ringer, if you will, for a little while. And after a couple of years of that, for whatever reason, just the persistence in me, I was like, not giving up. But I just, something happened where I was like, I have to get out of this corporate job, and was extremely grateful for it. I was making some decent money in a financial institution, and had a nice apartment and my fiance and stuff like that, and we were having a lot of fun. But I was working in a call center, and I just remember going to my desk and being kind of feeling like, at least at the time, that I was chained to my cubicle. And I think it comes down to just having that entrepreneurial spirit. And I was grateful, but at the same time, I just like knew that I couldn't do that forever. So 2011, the year that I got married to my wife, was also that summer. I kind of had been doing some networking, and I made a decision to just, it was kind of sporadic, but it was also, there was some momentum behind it. I quit my job and got married in the same month. So talk about two crazy life, two amazing life decisions. And I basically came under the wing of a local mentor in Ohio, who was doing a ton of business, and really learned from them from the ground up, how to make these phone calls, how to negotiate, how to talk with people, how to market. And at the time, I had had a hunch that I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to go after a niche And Tim, that's something I'm super passionate about, is going really, really deep rather than wide. And I wanted to kind of master something. And so I really learned to specialize in probate and amongst other things. And from there started, finally having success and doing a lot of wholesale deals. And, fast forwarding to now, a couple years later, in 2014, after, doing that successfully for a while, I, had this idea that, hey, maybe I can put a video out there, or put some type of content out there that'll help someone else, and maybe they can, skip over some of those trials that I went through the last few years. And so I kind of just on a whim put out a YouTube video. I had spent also during that time from 2011 to 2014, I spent some time studying, marketing and online marketing and internet marketing, and just, I have this passion for marketing. So, I just kind of decided, hey, I want to put out this YouTube video, and it started getting a lot of traction, how to wholesale real estate step by step. And basically from there, I started offering to mentor and coach people. And, fast forward a couple of years later, the video, by the grace of God, has over 100,000 views on YouTube, and wow. Is a source of a lot of students and stuff for me. And it's a great blessing. And a lot of people have seen that. And so now I kind of have evolved my business to where I basically partner up with students and help them to learn this from the ground up, just like my mentor, helped me learn organically in the trenches. And that's kind of my long-winded answer to your question, Tim.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, it gives us the full story, and I love how, in exploring about internet marketing and online marketing, you branch out into, hey, maybe I can teach other people how to do this, right? And so share with us in terms of like the joy or the fulfillment that you get from doing your own deals versus doing a deal with a student. Because I know how that feels, but a lot of investors don't do that with people. So I'm curious from you, like, what's the difference in just your whole perspective of how you look at the deal, how much fun you get in doing the deals versus if it was just your own deal?
Yeah, that's awesome, Tim. So, yeah, it's this exhilarating, it's such a fulfilling thing watching, a student do their very first deal, because I can think back to like how much that meant in my own personal life to finally do that deal and kind of have that belief kind of trigger, like, oh my gosh, this is actually real and this can happen. So, definitely when I did my first deal, I remember, and it was just like such a great feeling and a lot of, confidence. And then there was also a lot of unknown. To be honest, I still really didn't know everything there is to know. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just trying to make things happen. But then once I got some momentum and did another deal, that confidence started to build. And then after you do more and more, you start to realize, hey, there's certain skill sets in this business, like marketing and branding and negotiating, that you have to build. And so now that I see it through the lens of like, working with students, it definitely keeps me humbled and grounded. And it's just cool because, I can kind of see, them running into the same roadblocks that I ran into. And it's just cool to be able to give back and to be able to give them a little comfort and say, hey, I definitely know what this feels like, but, this isn't the end of the road. Like, just little things and how to negotiate and how to navigate the water. So seeing a student kind of come into those same roadblocks and then being able to help them do something scary or take a leap of faith, or, whether it's standing firm in your offer or, doing an extra bit of marketing or whatever the little, the scary act is that, they kind of need to do to get over the hump. And then when they kind of actually close their eyes and do it, and then they succeed and then they get that confidence, it's a really good feeling because you're helping them. But the other side of it, Tim, is pretty sweet too, is even still I'm always learning from my students, and it's like just to see what they're doing as well is pretty cool because people have different ways of looking at things. So just being able to be like, oh, that's a great question, or that's a good way to look at it. I'm even learning from my students just how they approach things, and the things they do are inspiring. So it also goes both ways, and I try to let them know that, like, hey, I'm getting a lot out of this too.
Right. So you have a very interesting business model that, like, to me, I see it's like it's hard to take on, right? When I'm investing in just my local market, it's easy for me to know, what I need to know about my local market. Right? I know
Yes.
what area, what zip code, what neighborhood, what the price is. And your model is you go, all over the nation and find students to bring you deals that way. Can you speak into what does it, number one, what does it take to do deals in markets that you don't know? And what are the challenges that you run across that, perhaps that you don't really run across in your local market, or it's much easier to resolve in your local market than it is somewhere else like that?
Yeah, excellent. So, there's definitely unique challenges when it comes to, doing this all over, the nation. A couple things that I'll run into that are common are just, different, different markets. So, for example, like out in California, the offer price that we're offering is certainly higher than here in Ohio. So kind of knowing that and learning that, presents, some challenges in the beginning when we go into a new market. I like to really kind of pull back a little bit, and we just take it step by step. And, there's some times that, certainly, we'll fall down a little bit. But knowing the basics, knowing how to market, knowing how to negotiate, I don't want to be the one that says, oh my gosh, this can work in every single solitary city in the whole world, because obviously there are markets that are hotter than other markets. And,
Right.
I found specifically with like wholesaling, it's going to be tougher to do in rural areas. So if you're in the middle of a farm town in Montana, that's probably not the market that we're going to go into. So what I try to do is focus on some of the bigger markets in that specific state. So like I have one of my students down in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a great market, and he lives about an hour outside of Charlotte in a pretty rural area. So, he was really big on, in the beginning, doing this in his local area because he knew everybody. And, very early on, I kind of recognized, like, what, it's going to be hard to do it in that area because it's so small. Like, we really need to focus on Charlotte. So now he's kind of transitioned his whole business to dominate Charlotte. So that's just kind of an example of how we try to stick to those markets where we have the best opportunity for success. And then there are absolutely a lot of little curveballs that come up, but I just try to take it chunk by chunk and step by step and work through those issues.
Gotcha. So give us a tip on how do you quickly find out, what, how much a buyer is willing to pay in a certain market?
Awesome question. So, a big thing is looking at the sold comps and looking at sales. So, that's a huge part of it is looking what is actually selling in that zip code in that area. Whether that particular student is getting MLS access or we're pulling the sold comps. So that is one area. But the other side, I kind of take a little bit of an opposite approach to it as well. And I believe, like, if you have such a good deal with a lot of equity, that also, the buyers are going to, be there. They're going to come out of the woodwork. So I focus a lot of my attention with my students, especially in the beginning, on becoming a master of marketing and really marketing to have that asset, to have that value, being conservative with our prices. And, because one of the common mistakes I made, Tim, and what I see a lot of people making is, like, they're just offering too much and they're getting a deal that they think might be a good deal, but then they can't bring a buyer. So I'd rather my student be a little bit more conservative. So, we'll look at the comps, we'll look at the sales, but we'll also just focus on marketing like crazy and really being conservative and knowing that, man, we have a steal of a deal and it's going to give us the best opportunity to sell it.
Gotcha. All right, awesome. So, share with us, so if someone wants to model after your business model, and they're like, okay, that sounds like a cool idea. finding students all around the country. So share with us like how would you guide them to start doing that?
Absolutely. It's a great question. So one of the things that I would recommend is putting together what I call like a value sequence. So, before anyone is going to, join your coaching program, or before you're going to be able to get these students, you want to be able to demonstrate that you can actually help them, that you can get them results, and that they can trust you. So that's what I would say it would be, to think about like how you can, actually help somebody. What's kind of your specialty? You need to be able to really do deals and to really help them and to really have some of those skill sets. And, maybe probate's not your specialty. Maybe it's postcard mailers, or maybe it's a certain other niche. But think about like what kind of separates you, and how can you demonstrate that value? So, for an example, and, modeling my kind of business model, first off, you can always, check out that YouTube video, or you could, opt into my email list, and you can kind of see some of the emails that I send out. And, I'm certainly fine with that. But what I do is I take people, first off, I just put up an hour and 45-minute kind of like a webinar video on YouTube, and I gave away my very best tip. Like, some people are like kind of scared to give away their best stuff, thinking like, well, if I teach my best stuff, then nobody else will buy from me. But I was lucky enough to have a mentor that was kind of gutsy, and they said, Steve, just who cares, man? Just give away your best stuff in the beginning, and that's going to kind of separate you, because, unless you have thousands upon thousands of dollars to waste in advertising, you have to lead with value. So I said, okay, I'm just going to, I knew what I was doing in wholesaling was producing a lot of revenue. My mentor at the time was doing like $500,000 a year from probate. I was successful in probate, doing a ton of deals. And I was like, I'm just going to put on video exactly how I do probate with nothing left out. And like I said, by the grace of God, that the video is done very well. And from there, I kind of expanded on that video, and I said, if you opt into my email list, I'm going to give you my 10-day boot camp for free, just little 5-minute videos. And then I also offer like a free consultation, a couple of free webinar trainings. And over the course of 5 to 10 days, I kind of demonstrate that I can help people, and I answer their biggest questions, their biggest fears. I try to respond to every email that I get. I try to just really put myself ahead of and be willing to do in the beginning what other people aren't willing to do. And I think with that sincere interest to help, by the time people are, kind of going through that sequence of about 10 days, they're like, oh my gosh, like I want to partner up with you. I want to, become your student. So that's what I would say, Tim, is to think about, for those of you out there who are looking to kind of mentor and help people, you definitely have something to give, but think about how you can give first, and then it's okay to really sell after you've given.
That's awesome. So, and then about like what do you have, if you say an average, about how many students do you take on average a month, and then and then out of that, like how long? Is there a required amount of time or a number of deals that they have to split with you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I average anywhere between like 5 and 10 students a month. Some months, sometimes I will get so busy because I do work with people one-on-one where I have to kind of shut it down for a little bit because, I'm just, at my capacity. But yeah, that's kind of the sweet spot. If I'm getting around 5 people a month, sometimes 7, 10, I might run a couple promotions during the year, around like July 4th, like Independence Day, around Christmas and New Year's and stuff like that. So during those times, I'll take on a little bit more. But yes, and then Tim, what was the other part of your question there?
The other part of my question was, is there a required amount of time that they have to split deals with you, or a certain number of deals that they have to do with you?
Yeah, okay, that's right. So how I split it with students is yes, I require them to do 3 deals. So we do our first 3 deals together, and I kind of chose that as just a milestone, because I felt like after they've, one deal a lot of times is not enough, but once we get through 3 deals together, they, kind of are starting to get it, and they have that foundation, they have that confidence. And then I give them the option to extend and to do more if they choose to, which some people do because they like having that second pair of eyes, that second voice of reason to talk through, and they really want to scale this into something big. So they're like, Steve, let's do more business. But I start out when I first started, I'll be honest, again, just trying to over deliver. I was like, I'll work with you as long as it takes to do 3 deals. But how it is now is I work with people up to a year. So whether it's a year or your first 3 deals, that's kind of the time frame that I'll work with people.
Gotcha. Okay, that sounds good. So what's I know you focus a lot on probates. Give us like a really good tip on probates. Like, what do you do that's different from what's out there that's being taught out there?
Awesome, Tim. So what I do that I think is a little bit different is I really try to connect with the executor and with the attorney on just kind of like a personal level. So, a lot of times people will just maybe drop a postcard in the mail, or maybe they'll send a couple of letters. And for whatever reason, probate's one of those niches that a lot of people have heard about, but and it's been picking up. It's definitely more and more people are doing it. So there is a little bit of competition out there, and that's a lot of times what people get so worried about. They're so scared of competition, but it's actually a good thing. But what I hear, especially from my students, when they've talked to sellers, is like, oh my gosh, Tim, John, whoever the student is, they're like, you were the only one to pick up the phone to actually call me. So I've gotten like maybe 5 other letters. So what I do, Tim, and what I have my students do is I actually call the executor, I call the attorney, and I actually email the attorney. So there's really like 5 touch points. I'm sending each and every week for all the executors. I'm sending all the executors a letter. That's 1 touch point. Sending the attorney a letter, touch point 2. I'm calling the executor, touch point 3, calling the attorney, and then also dropping the attorney an email. So very, very big about phone calls. And then, we don't pester people or anything like that. But, if I maybe, I'll call them a couple times until I get a hold of them and leave them a very compelling voicemail that's not salesy, but is really kind of curiosity based.
So give us that voicemail. What does that sound like?
Yeah, let's do it. So it would sound something like this. Hey, Tim, just giving you a quick call about the property over on 123 Main Street that you're executor to. And this is kind of just a shot in the dark, but I came across your information and wanted to just give you a quick call to see if the house was going to be for sale or not. I was interested in making you a direct offer, but I just wasn't sure if it was going to end up being for sale. And so I'll kind of leave it open-ended like that.
Oh, okay. That's easy. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there extra steps to be able to find their phone numbers and find their email to contact them that way?
Yeah, and that's definitely a market specific thing. So a lot of times, and it's great when this is the case, that information is in the probate file, whether your county has that online or if you're in a county where you have to go down to the courthouse. Mm-hmm. A lot of times the attorney number is in the file, and so is the executor. And sometimes one of the numbers is missing. So for an example, Tim, if the attorney's number is missing, it's pretty easy to find their information, because attorneys are advertising, right? So if you type in John Smith, probate attorney, Atlanta, Georgia, 80-90% of the time you're going to be able to find their website and their advertising, their phone number, so you can get the attorney phone number and email just by doing a little bit of research. The executor information, if it's not in the file, for sure, that's a little frustrating because there's a little extra work that you have to do. But then there are a few websites, a few resources that I'll use to try to find their phone number. And, That's Them is very good. There's peoplefinders.com. That's also pretty good. And what I've found is about 50 to 70% of the time, if you do a couple of those searches, you'll be able to find their phone number. So then I'll call them from there.
Awesome, buddy. You've been giving us some amazing tip. Now, I want to delve a little bit into your mindset. Every time I talk to you, you're super happy, jolly. I'm sure you have your down days, right? Do
Absolutely.
You? Okay. So
yeah,
how do you?
There's tough days for sure.
Yeah. So as an entrepreneur, like we go through those days, and it doesn't even have to be those days necessarily. I'd like to speak into. Do you have sort of a ritual or something that you do to, number one, keep yourself like, happy, motivated on a daily basis? And then also when you're down days and the deals are falling apart and, it's like, do you have anything to do? Do you have anything that you do specifically to kind of like get yourself back on, back on your feet? It's like, okay, I got to get this done and get this taken care of.
Yeah, awesome, Tim. I'm glad you asked that. Because I try to be, and have as much energy as possible, and I certainly appreciate you saying that. There's definitely personal development for me is a big thing, and I think it's necessary for anybody, but especially us entrepreneurs. There's so many, I don't want to sugarcoat it. There's so many trials and obstacles in all parts of life, especially in business and being an entrepreneur and trying to get this thing off the ground. And, a lot of times, whether it's family or friends or, or situation or finances or whatever it is, people don't believe in you or just, your back's against the wall. It takes such a strong mindset. And especially in today's culture, we live in this world of distraction. Everything is, social media, our attention spans are so small and there's so many things creeping in. It's basically hard to be consistent with things. It's hard to focus. So, I feel like successful in this business, it took me years to kind of learn some of those skill sets of like, how do I focus? How do I remain positive? How do I become, good at networking? And those are all thankfully skills that we can all work on and stuff. But for me, definitely, Tim. There's a few things for me that are core. First and foremost, for me, it's my relationship with God. And so when I wake up, I try my best, not always, but I read the Bible. There's a spiritual side for me that's like foundational. But even if that's not you, there's some other things that I think are really powerful. I always try my best. I don't do it perfectly, but I do try to work out. I think, sweating and getting the endorphins going is something that and there's so many studies out there, like that's one of the biggest things to battle. Because I struggle sometimes with anxiety and just overthinking, and that was a big thing for me. And so just sweating hardcore and whatever it is, your workout style, but just really getting the blood pumping, helps to overcome anxiousness and depression even. And there's all these studies out there. So I'm a big believer in exercising and sweating like crazy. And then so for me in the mornings, a lot of time, like I said, I'll read the Bible or listen to an inspiring sermon or something like that. And then for those of you who are not into that, and what I used to do is listen to a motivational speaker or somebody who just is wise that I want to model my life after and, just get fired up a little bit. I definitely like to read. I'm a big believer in putting good things into your body, like drinking a lot of water, eating good foods, like foods that'll actually give you some energy and fuel you and stuff like that. So that's a big part of it for me. And then also, I had a lot of failure in the beginning too. So, I went through all the financial stuff, all of that. So just kind of keeping humble and trying to stay humble and just remembering how bad it was at one time and just, how thankful I am now to have a business. And so when I have those bad days, some days there's just bad days where you don't feel like working or everything's going wrong. I'll try to just get away and maybe get some solitude and really think and pray about things. Sometimes it's I'm just going to go for a drive and listen to some music. And then sometimes it's having a wise person to talk to and just bounce ideas off of, because sometimes we get our thoughts all scrambled up inside and it's we need somebody that's maybe a few steps ahead of where we are and maybe they can give us some wisdom. So I'm just kind of rambling now here, Tim, but those are a
No,
couple
you're
of things.
good. Yeah, you gave us a lot to work with here. Yeah, so everything from the Bible, or into exercise, drinking water, like you just did, right?
Yeah.
Putting good food in your body. So yeah, all of that for sure are all parts of it, and it's like they as they said, right? Like little by little, it adds up.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Yeah. So great. Thank you so much, Steven, for giving us, a lot of ideas, sharing with us about your stories and everything. We're going to wrap up this interview now. I'm sure the people are in love with you by now. So where do you want to send them? Where can they go to check out your YouTube video, your website? Where do you want to send them?
Yeah, Tim, and I just want to say again, I'm so thankful that you had me on today. It's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun, and I know that you're doing some awesome things too. So thank you for all the value you provide, and thank you for what you do. I definitely appreciate it, and this has been a ton of fun. So and thank you to everybody listening too. I've had a lot of fun sharing some of this stuff. So to answer your question, 2 places. One, I'm launching a blog. For the longest time, I didn't have a website, and that's one of the things out there, guys. Don't think you have to have everything polished and perfect. For the longest time, I didn't even have a website, but I finally do, and it's called productivewisdom.com. Productivewisdom.com is my blog, and on there, I have some awesome webinar training. I have a new email and video of the week that I'm doing, and you can also opt into my email newsletter, and there's just a ton of really good content, and there's going to be even more coming on a weekly basis. So that's a huge project of mine for 2017. And then if you're just interested in checking out the YouTube video and getting right onto my email list, and I'm not going to spam you to death, I really try to provide just a ton of value. And if you want to check out my funnel and that 10-day boot camp, you can go to hotdealwholesaling.com, Hot Deal Wholesaling, and you'll have an opportunity to check out that YouTube video, the 10-day boot camp, and that's also part of my email subscriber list. So yeah, Tim, those are the 2 places, Productive Wisdom and Hot Deal Wholesaling.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy. One last question for you. All right.
Yes.
So I believe that all entrepreneurs are heroes. Do you see yourself as a hero?
Oh man, that is a good question. Sometimes, to be honest, sometimes I'm like, I'm doing some pretty cool things. Like, this is awesome. And then other times I'm like, man, I'm sucking. I'm really messing this stuff up. So some days I feel like a hero, and other days I feel like a zero. But one of the words that's close to hero, this has always been my favorite word, and I think it goes back to when I was 7 years old and was in love with wrestling. I used to love The Ultimate Warrior, and the word warrior is one of my favorite words, and it's just even my business is called Inner Warrior Consulting, and I just love that word, and I think it is so true for entrepreneurs to build yourself up so strong, in your mind, in your skill sets, with how you help other people, and that's kind of my mission, Tim, going forward, is just to be, first to try to be a warrior myself. I don't get it perfect a lot, but and then also to help other people, and that's kind of what I've based my coaching and my mentoring is to help other men and women become warriors. So I'm so glad you asked that hero question, because I try to be a hero, and I definitely want to help other people to be a hero too. So, and a warrior.
Awesome. And you are, in my eyes, you definitely are a hero for your family, for all the homeowners that you serve, and all the students that you serve. So thank you so much, buddy, for everything that you do, and thank you so much for being on this interview with me and sharing everything you've shared today.
Absolutely, Tim. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. All right, everybody. See you on the next interview. Bye for now.
And that's our show for today. If you have any questions or would like to get further training from Tim Mai, please visit our website at www.dodeals.com/Tim.